This episode of Bulletproof Cash Flow is brought to you by Realty Dynamics. Learn how people like you can build substantial passive income while creating wealth for the long term through real estate investing. Visit rdyne.com. That's RDYNE.com.
I wish I'd bought, or woe is me, I bought, and now I can't get rid of it. They were buying at speculators. They weren't really investors. They were speculated, hoping it would get in value, paying too much for a property. Well, when interest rates go up, opportunities go up because sellers become highly motivated.
Working because you want to, not because you have to, is financial freedom. And we want to help you create that. Welcome to the Bulletproof Cash Flow Show. We're going to teach you how to achieve lifetime financial freedom through real estate investment. Your host is a multifamily syndicator and property developer. He's done deals reaching into the hundreds of millions of dollars. You'll hear from experts in all aspects of real estate investment, finance, development, and management. Everything you need is right here. This is the Bulletproof Cash Flow Show. And this is your host, Augustino Pintus.
Hey everyone, it's Augustino. Do you think it's possible to buy real estate with zero cash or credit? Or is it just for the highly skilled people? Well, our next guest knows that one of the biggest misconceptions about the real estate business is that you need to have huge amounts of money to find success. Now, after getting his MBA in 1974, he immediately began to invest in real estate and became a millionaire within a few short years. Then he began to teach his unique investing strategies in very popular real estate seminars nationwide. And he's been really active in the real estate and wealth education industry for over the past 40 years. Now, he is the author or co-author of some of the most influential financial books of all time. This includes Creating Wealth, Nothing Down, Multiple Streams of Income, and the 1 Minute Millionaire. All these books were New York Times bestsellers. Now, combined, he's got 11 books that have sold over 4 million copies that have spent more than 100 weeks on New York Times bestseller list. Now, throughout the past 40 years, millions of people have attended his live seminars, and his graduates have earned billions of dollars in profits following his financial advice. So listen very carefully to today's show. It's going to be a great one. Now, with all that, I'd like to welcome Robert Allen to the show. Robert, buddy, thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, thank you. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our call today, our session today.
Yes. Now, guys, if you like what Robert has to say, you can reach him via his contact page at robertallen.com. Okay, Robert, please go ahead. Tell listeners a little bit more about your journey. How did you get started in all this?
I had a dream to be a millionaire, and what better way to do it than real estate? When I got out of college, I couldn't get a job. It was a recession, and so I decided, well, I'm single. Why don't I just don't get a job? Why don't I just go buy real estate, become a millionaire? Which, a few years later, that's exactly what happened. And so my message today is that anybody can start just like I did. I had $1,000, no credit, no job, no cash, no collateral, nothing. And, anybody can start that way and make a fortune. Don't let anybody tell you that it takes money to make money. And you assume that it's your money. Other people have the money. You just go figure out how to find the deals.
That's right. How to really, using other people's money, using OPM, other people's money. Now, but I think the one thing you mentioned first, and it may have been a tongue in cheek, but it's actually true, right? You have to make a decision to be a millionaire. It's like you have to decide that you're going to be successful. I think that's probably one of the biggest hurdles that many people have to get over, right? Is like, how do you make that decision? Right? Like, how do you have to visualize success? I think that's probably a big part of what really drove you to take that first step, right?
I think entrepreneurs, they all want to have financial freedom. They want to be rich. I just didn't know I was an entrepreneur at the time. My dad worked at a company his entire life. And so I didn't really see my grandfather, who died before I was born. I didn't see his entrepreneurial, skills. But he was the entrepreneur in our small town, and so those are my genes. And eventually, when I came to the fact that I saw that 30 rejection letters from all these major corporations who didn't want to hire me after my MBA, at first I was totally depressed. I thought I was going to spend 6 years in college, and on and I have nowhere to go and no future. And then something happened, and the entrepreneur in me came out. When an entrepreneur is rejected or is challenged, the entrepreneur rises to the occasion, and they go, if you tell me I can't do it, I'm going to show you that I can. In other words, it was them not believing in me that eventually caused me to go. I remember looking at those 30 letters signed by the personnel directors from General Foods, General Electric, General Mills, General anybody I could think of. And all these people had said, no, you don't qualify to work in our company. And I looked at those letters. I'll never forget this to this day. I said to myself, one day I will earn more money than all 30 of these people combined. And you watch me, and let me show you. And entrepreneurs, they respond that way when somebody tells them they can't do it. They say, watch me. And I didn't realize that I was an entrepreneur, but that's the characteristic of an entrepreneur. They love a challenge. They rise to a challenge. And so that's what happened. And I took that $1,000 and found a mentor. A fellow was a multimillionaire in my city. And I said to him, Paul, you got something for me to do. I want to hang home with you. Show me what you're doing. Let me help you. You help me. Anyway, so 4 years later, I was a millionaire.
Yeah, nice. And that's the thing. I mean, so it sounds to me like once that decision was made, you took the action of getting around the people that know how to do it. I think that's a big part of it, right? Because I think certainly no slam on the books, of course. Reading the book is one thing and getting the knowledge is one thing, but without the action, without getting that almost, I'm not going to say hand-holding, because certainly mentoring is not hand-holding, but there is an element of interaction that has to take place, I believe anyway, right?
Yeah, that at least in my case, that was the case. But I have, since I wrote my books, I've had just thousands of stories of people who read the book and it changed their life. And I had a guy that I was consulting with in Japan. We were at a beautiful restaurant in a hotel overlooking a beautiful park in downtown Tokyo. And he said, that's where I was living when I read your book. I was homeless. And I went into a used bookstore, and there was a copy of Multiple Streams of Income. In Japanese, it's called Okaman Choja, which means the billionaire man. And I read that book, and now today I'm a millionaire. So, I never had met the guy. He just read my book. So whether it's a book or whether it's a seminar you go to, whether it's a coaching, whether it's a friend, whatever, you do need somebody else's system, somebody else's advice to look over your shoulder. Yeah, you need that. Everybody does.
Absolutely. So then when you got started, it was in the single family space, right? So maybe tell us a little bit about how did you put those deals together? How did you figure it out? Aside from your mentor telling you, probably giving you advice, how did you figure out how you're going to take that first step?
Well, I had read a book. It was called How I Turned $1,000 into $1 Million in Real Estate in My Spare Time. That's by William Nickerson. He used to be the granddaddy, and then Albert Lowry was another granddaddy out there. And I became the OG, as they call it, and transcended what they had been doing. But it was the book from Nickerson that just planting in my head the thought that I could start with $1,000, which I did, and turn it into millions. I never actually finished the book. I might have read the first 2 or 3 chapters. I never read it. It's just the thought. Yeah, if I can do it, I'll just go figure it out.
Right.
So I've had so many people who have told me that just the fact that they read the title to my book. Lady in Singapore came up to me. She says, "I'm a millionaire today." I said, "Well, congratulations." And she says, "Well, I've actually never read your book. I just read the title." We're totally down. She says, "Well, I guess he says I can do it. I'll go do it." So, well, it's crazy what inspires people.
That is funny. It's actually funny because in the green room I was telling you that I knew about your material many years ago before I even got into real estate. And so it's kind of funny that I was talking to someone today and I said, "Hey, yeah, I'm talking to Robert Allen. He's like the OG of all this stuff." So it's kind of funny that you actually use the same terminology. That's really funny. Yeah. That's really funny.
That's the way they call it. I'm the OG.
Yes.
I don't even know what that means, to tell you.
It means original gangster. You're Robert. You're a gangster now.
So, well, I'm honored to be here with you today, and what tens of millions of dollars worth of real estate yourself. Congratulations!
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Hey, Augustino here, and I would love to connect directly with you. Text the word books to 844-428-1344 to receive weekly book recommendations from me. Right now, we primarily did stabilized acquisition, but we've since moved into development, and we have a lot of our stuff is in development these days, and single tenant net lease assets. So we used to do single family. We still have some single family stuff, but we just do commercial stuff right now just because it makes sense to do that in the Cleveland market specifically, you know. So
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Eventually, you go into triple net lease because as a single family owner or an apartment, I went into apartments as well. You have the worst tenants on the planet. They can't even afford their own house. When you go into triple net lease, you have the best tenants on the planet. They can afford to buy the building. They just don't want to buy it. They want to lease it. That's part of their business plan. So you move into different tenant situations, don't you?
Yep, that's right. That's right. And I think the great thing about doing the net lease asset side of things, commercial's super great. Single family is great. Doing the flips and doing all that fun stuff is cool too. The great thing about net lease is that you get that very, very consistent monthly cash flow that is not always the case with commercial or even with the flips, because sometimes there could be a wrinkle in the contract, and you have to spend an extra month trying to get the seller over the line. Especially if you're a wholesaler, for instance, there's all kinds of different types of scenarios where net lease is a great foundation, which is one of the reasons why we do it. We do it for ourselves, obviously. But we also do it for our investors. We syndicate all of our deals, and the investors that come into those deals, they invest with us on those other deals too. But they also want a steady stream of very, very consistent, hyper consistent income. So that's a great thing about that stuff.
Well, I agree. Eventually, I think everybody should move into, that kind of an asset. That's good for you.
Yeah. I love it. So tell us a little bit about the single family space. I know that a lot of your experience was in single family. How do you really determine how to find these certain houses? Because many people, I'll read the comments. When I was doing the research on you, I'm reading through the comments, and people always poo-poo the idea. Oh, that doesn't work. It's only for specific type of deals, or it's only for this. There's always some sort of excuse. How do you answer those sorts of things, and how do you find those types of deals?
Well, there are many ways of finding highly motivated sellers, but the fundamental secret of investing in residential real estate, I don't think just single family is where I'm at.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for the type of real estate. I'm looking for the type of owner. I'm looking for an owner who has a personal problem, not a property problem. A personal problem is, a marriage dissolving, bankruptcy, some challenging issue they're dealing with that makes them want to get rid of their real estate. And I call that person a don't wanter. The don't wanter doesn't want their real estate because of a personal problem. Now, it might be their property is driving them nuts personally because they can't manage it. They don't know how. Maybe they inherited it. So I'm looking for the type of seller first, and they're very rare. If I go to a real estate office, I find retail real estate. I don't want retail real estate. I want wholesale real estate owned by a highly motivated seller so I can negotiate little or nothing down. I want to find a seller who doesn't need the cash, doesn't want the cash, wants to get rid of the property more than they want the cash. And so that's 1 in 20. 1 in 20. Now, the hot market just, a couple of years ago, it's hard to find those kinds of sellers, but still they're there. They're still there, absolutely. Now that we've shifted and interest rates have gone up, those types of sellers are starting to proliferate. I'm coaching with a gal right now who finds a person who has an $800,000 house with a $200,000 loan, and they're behind in their monthly payments by 6 months. They're going to lose it within 2 weeks. lose 500,000 in equity because they just don't know what to do. And so I'm having her help them bring the property current. So my investor, my student, can make, maybe a double or triple their money on that deal, but still not to take complete advantage. You want it to be win-win. I like that negotiation term. But you look for highly motivated sellers, and that if you look and you're persistent, you're going to find one. Every month or 2 or 3. How many properties do you need? You need 1 or 2 in a year to make more money doing that than you would working at a job you hate. 300 days a year. So I'd rather buy 2 properties a year and make more money, or buy 3 or 4. And it's not that even on one hand, you can make more money in one hand than most people, than 1% of people do. So why don't people do more real estate? It's crazy.
Yeah,
They own a home, for example. The home has gone up 50% in value, and they're living in this home. And they're the ones that are writing the comments in the section like poo-pooing
right.
the fact that a home that's gone up 50% in value, and they haven't gone the extra stress to think, I wonder if I had 2 of these. I wonder if I had 3 of these, and could rent them out, because they're employee-minded people. They don't think like entrepreneurs. So 6 out of 7 people are employee-minded. They've been trained through schooling by other employees how to think like an employee. Was the last thing you want to do if you want to create wealth. You have to be an entrepreneurial-minded person. So you are looking for deals, you're finding properties, you're flipping properties, you're buying and selling wholesale. You're not doing the retail thing. You're doing wholesale. Employees do retail. Entrepreneurs do wholesale. That's what we do.
I think that's probably the hardest part right there, is learning the wholesale. First making that mental shift from employee to entrepreneur, for many people, it's hard to do. But once you do that, spotting the opportunity right now, especially now, I think you're 100% right. Even on the commercial side, the big deals that I often see that have traded in not only in this market, but other markets as well, where they're either over leveraged, they did not buy a rate cap on the asset. That's going to basically when there's a change in rates, they have to make up the difference, and it comes out of their own pocket, out of the owner's pocket. If they don't have that insurance, so to speak, they're going under, right? They're underwater. And a lot of those guys out there. So I think that there's an opportunity. I really do. And to your point, I don't mean it to be opportunity that or take advantage of people. It's more of an opportunity to help those folks out and help yourself out at the same time. Win-win. It is very important. It is very important. But I think your material today is certainly not that it wasn't valuable before, but I think today, if it's applied properly, there's just way more opportunities now, and there's more opportunities coming, I believe, in the next little bit. I think there is.
So that's the game we play. We do the real estate game, and we enjoy it, and it's wonderful, right?
Yeah, love it. I love doing it, But now when you're finding your deals, then obviously when you're talking retail, you're talking MLS, real estate agents, those folks. That is way more expensive, obviously. At the wholesale side, you're talking now mailers, hitting the phones, buying the lists, doing the one-on-one discussion. I think that's probably where the toughest part actually is, right?
Yeah, it means that you got to get 100 no's before you get a yes. And if you made $50,000 for the yes, it's worth it. So this is where we lose most people. They go through the learning curve, I call it. When you're going through the learning curve, you're here with a dream, and you hope that you'll make some good money. And so you start on the process of learning how to do it, and you learn that it's a lot harder than you expected it to be. And so you go through the learning curve, and down here at the bottom where there's lots of failure, this is where we lose most people. They begin to doubt their decision. That what they expected was going to be is a lot harder than they expected it. So at the bottom of the learning curve, they won't continue. And the learning curve comes up here where they are now starting to find deals, and the opportunities are starting to flow to them. Then, off they go but we lose most of the beginners right in that dip. And so if you're a beginner, but you're like you're hearing me talk about it, and you're hearing yourself. You're talking about how you do it, and it seems as if maybe we're self-interested, so that we are saying things that are not true, like, well, we want you to pay us money to coach you, right? So therefore, we're going to say things that's easier than it really is. Well, it's hard. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's hard to find a really good deal. It takes work and effort to finally dig it out, but eventually you stumble into a vein of pure deals, and eventually you start to have enough money from the money you make, that the deals are everywhere. As crazy as it sounds now, I'm telling you, on the front end, as a beginner, you can't find them at all. And then when you get to be really good to us, they're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
It's just like, isn't that the case when you're talking about you're doing commercial real estate? It's everywhere you look.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's well. For one thing, I got to acknowledge something which I thought was hilarious. I was on a show just last week, and we're talking about the real estate game, and I'm like, I don't care what these gurus say. Doing real estate is very, very hard. It is not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. This is not like you just, you're going to buy a duplex and you're going to next buy a Ferrari, move to Miami. That's not happening. Not happening. It takes a lot of work. But like you said, that trough, that dip, that's where many of the people are lost, because it's you're educating them, you're showing them the way, and now it comes through the grind. But once that grind comes up again and they get through it, I believe that a reticular activating system in your brain turns on. And that's where you're able to spot the deals, because you're always honed in to try to spot opportunities. Like, we have so many opportunities, I got to slow them down now because there's too many of them, and we have to.
Very profound statement that you just said is our reticular activating system teaches us after a while to notice the clues that were in front of us all the time. And now we notice where the clues are. We know that if we dig a little deeper on that clue, we're going to get a deal. Very profound. I never thought of it that way. Very, very good. Very powerful.
Yeah.
You learn how to find the deals, and then they're everywhere.
That's right. Because now you're looking for them.
That's true.
Yeah, because you're looking for them. You're looking for them now. You're on the same frequency as those deals, and you're also the same frequency as the people that need them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's bulletproof cash flow for you.
Well, good. Now, I know that you have a money tree formula, right? Can you talk a little bit about that? I want to take a pause from today's show to share something that I've been encountering. As I speak to many investors, there's this concern, and the concern is centered around the inflation we've been experiencing and the devaluation of our currency. Now, we've seen some of the highest inflationary periods over the past 30 years. That's up over 8%. The economists actually believe that inflation is closer to 20%. Some say it's even more. Now, what does this mean for you? Well, it means that money that is sitting in your bank account or self-directed IRA that's not invested in physical assets that hedge against inflation are losing buying power. That means that every minute, every second, that dollar is becoming less valuable. You see this every day. You see this in the groceries you buy, the gasoline you buy, everyday items that you're buying on a daily basis are becoming more and more expensive, and you're using a less powerful dollar to buy these items, meaning that dollar is losing value if it isn't put into a property that produces cash flow, just like real estate does. Now, our team here at Bulletproof Cash Flow has put together a series of weekly webinars that cover real estate investing like multifamily, net lease, and real estate development. Now, these are purely educational webinars. In these webinars, we talk about why real estate offers a powerful opportunity right now and why it makes sense to invest in these assets today. So, if you're interested in real estate or want to have the opportunity to get involved as a hedge against inflation yourself, I encourage you to go to bulletproofcashflow.com/webinars. That's bulletproofcashflow.com/webinars. Now you go there, these webinars are 45 minutes and they cover different topics every week. We go over the things you need to know to avoid some of the common pitfalls when it comes to investing, while getting you prepared to invest your paper dollars into a real physical asset. Now, if you can't make the webinars, just go ahead and register and we will send you a recording that you can watch at any time. And by the way, these webinars are entirely free. There's no cost to you. This is just something that we do to educate our folks out there. So if you're enjoying this episode, please like and subscribe to Bulletproof Cash Flow. It helps the channel tremendously when you do. Now let's go ahead and get back to the show.
Well, you're going to be shown lots of opportunities and real estate or business opportunities all the time. If you are out there looking, you're going to stumble into them. So the money tree formula is, how do I know if this is the kind of deal that will take me to residual wealth? That means streams of income that flow to you while you're sleeping. And most businesses are not that way. You got to go to work and you got to work it, and you can't get out because it requires your presence. That's not wealth. Wealth is when the money flows to you rather than you having to go out and get it, right? So the money tree formula is, I need that opportunity itself to generate multiple streams of income. That's what the M is. So if it's real estate, what other ways can I make money from that real estate? Maybe vending machines or rental other spaces or whatever. It's got to have multiple streams of income. It's got to be an outstanding deal. It can't be a bad deal. It has to be profitable. And profitable meaning I got to buy it below market, or I've got to get below market terms. So if it's not below market getting, wholesale price, I got to have wholesale terms. That means little or no money down, seller carries financing, lower interest rates, that kind of thing. N stands for nothing down. It's got to be little or no money down, or I don't want to buy it. Because all businesses are risky anyway, and normal business is going to be 90% of them are going to fail. So why wouldn't I put a lot of money into a business that's going to 90% chance they're going to failure? I want to put little or no money down. So if I lose, I lost little or none of my own money, right? E stands for employee resistant, meaning I don't want a lot of employees. If I have to manage employees, that's not freedom. I want a business that doesn't require a lot of employees. That's why real estate fits that category. Y stands for yield. Even if I put a little money in, I want a high rate of return. So we all know that real estate because of leverage, gives you high rates of return. T stands for trend, and you got to invest in the right trends. And in real estate, it has its trends. It goes up and down. In 2008, everything went down, right? Well, the babies are still being born. The country's still growing. Eventually, those vacant properties will fill up, and eventually they'll be increasing in value. By 4040, there'll be, 400 million people by 4040 will live in America. So where are they going to live? They're going to have to live somewhere. So that's a trend you got to follow. R stands for residual. If it's not residual, don't do it. Unless it's part of your purpose in life. And I'll get to that in a minute. Because I am right here with you, talking to you, spending my time when I am not returning residual stream of income. I'm doing this because this is my purpose in life. It's what I do. But generally, the income streams I want are streams that flow when I'm not there. One day I won't be here. And I want my message to still be given out there to the world. E stands for essential to everybody every day. It means if I have a business, it has a product that's not essential, eventually that product will fail during the next recession, because when it's not essential, people don't buy it. I want the product, and I don't want a commodity product. That means everybody's competing and driving the price down. I wanted some kind of exclusivity, but it's still essential. And it's essential maybe to my narrow niche of customers, but it's got to be essential to them. They can't survive without it. Whether their business can't survive or their family can't survive. So real estate is essential to everybody every day. You need a roof over your head. End of story, period. So that's why real estate fits that part of the formula. And the final one, you have to be enthusiastic about it. It's got to be something you want to do, a business you want to do. Not a business you're doing just because you're trying to make some money. You're doing it because you're passionate about it, because you enjoy it, because it's fun, because it gives you a buzz, because it's not work, it's play. It has to be play, or eventually it'll be drudgery, and the drudgery means you'll stop doing the important things to make it work. So real estate fits the formula, but there are other businesses that do fit that formula also. You just got to run it through the formula to make sure it's the kind of thing you want to spend your time on. multiple streams of income, outstanding product, nothing down, employee resistant, yield, trend, residual, essential, and enthusiasm. And when I use that formula, I win. If I don't use that formula, I find it difficult to succeed.
Yeah, I have to wonder if that's the reason why many businesses fail. Not so much real estate business, but other businesses in general. Like you said, 90% of them fail. I have to wonder if it's because after a while, people start resenting that business. It's like they had every intent of going out on their own, so to speak, but now it's turned into that drudgery, and they just give up. I got to wonder if that's really what it is.
Yeah. I agree. So that's the formula that our viewers should be using to evaluate any opportunity. In my mind, talk about that in the beginning chapters of Multiple Streams of Income, which is one of my most popular books.
Yeah, you should. And you guys, if you're listening, you should definitely grab that one because that has a great outline and it goes into it in more detail in the book. Now, one thing we talked a little bit about was recession, right? And I think what many people, how should I put this? They learn a little bit about some of the deals that we're doing right now, right? And we're doing a lot of deals currently. We have about $100 million in the pipeline for this quarter alone, all development. And they often get concerned about recession, this big recession. But the one thing I say is that I don't have a recession in my mind. In my mind, I look for opportunities. I don't look for recessions, right?
Yeah. That's good. That's good. I like that one. Yeah, that's true. I don't look for recession. I look for opportunities. Yeah.
Right. So how do you do that? How do you keep that straight in your mind, or do you?
Well, employees are worried about recessions. Entrepreneurs are looking for opportunity. It's absolutely true. So right now, as interest rates go up, all the employees are saying, "Oh, woe is me! I wish I'd bought. Or, "Oh, woe is me! I bought, and now I can't get rid of it." They were buying at speculators. They weren't really investors. They were speculators.
Yeah.
In value, paying too much for a property. Well, when interest rates go up, opportunities go up because sellers become highly motivated. And the worst thing about real estate is also the best thing about real estate. They're both the exact same word. And that word is liquidity. And real estate usually requires time to sell. And the worse the economy is, the longer it takes to sell. Therefore, if you need liquidity, you have to be flexible. You want to lower your price in order to get cash. So it's hard to sell real estate. Therefore, it's illiquid. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. It's good because it's illiquid, you get to pick up these deals for people who need cash and are willing to sacrifice the equities in their property. However, the same problem goes for you. And therefore, you want to make sure you're timing your selling at the peaks of a seller's market, not the bottom of a buyer's market. And liquidity is really the word. Yep. And if you're liquid and you've got really a chunk of cash you've saved up for that time like this, then the opportunities are everywhere because cash is needed everywhere. If you have spent all your cash during the good times and don't have any money to buy, then you have to do nothing down investing, which is my specialty. Buy a copy of Nothing Down or The Creative Wealth. The One Minute Millionaire. These are my number one New York Times bestsellers. Creating Wealth. Nothing Down. It's How to Buy Real Estate with Little or No Money Down. That sold 1 million copies. This was The 1 Minute Millionaire. That sold 1 million copies. This sold 1 million copies. These are my 4 biggies. But whichever one you pick up, you probably get one at a used bookstore somewhere. Pick it up. Just read it. It'll give you a different philosophy, a different mindset.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and to your point, it's really letting the market tell you what it wants out of that deal too, is really what it comes down to, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, one thing that we all learn from is failures. I made some mistakes. One of my mistakes I made was I didn't go big enough early enough. Right now, I'm trying to go bigger. What sort of mistakes did you make early on that you can pass on to the audience?
Well, things sometimes, there are two kinds of challenges. Actually, five challenges that people have that I talk about in one of my books called The Four Maps of Happy, Successful People. And the four maps, as I looked over my career, I looked at the times when I really won big and the times when I really lost big. And I said to myself, what are the skills I need to make sure that I don't lose and that I guarantee the fact to win? Well, the first map is called, these are maps you literally draw every day, little stick figures and smiley faces. And it's fun. It's, even if you're not an artist. The first map is called a clarity map. And that means you gotta know what you want. If you don't know what you want, then what are you chasing? A man who chases two rabbits loses both.
Uh-huh.
So if most people are chasing 10 or 20 rabbits, not just one, they're not going to catch anything. You got to decide, I want that rabbit, and then go catch it. You know? And so the clarity map is saying, what rabbit? 7 questions. What do I want? When do I want it? Where do I want it? How much do I want? Why do I want it? Who do I want it with? And then finally, how am I going to get it? And the how question is the weakest question. That's why it's the last question. For most people, it's the first question. Well, how am I going to do that? And then they never start because they don't know how. It starts with, why do you want to be rich? Who are you gonna talk to help you get there? And who's going to benefit when you do get there? And then, okay, let's get clear. Okay, this is where I want to be. This is what it looks like. And you make the dream and all that visualization, all that stuff. That's all really important. The second maps I call the anticipation map. That means what could knock me off my game? I know what I want now, so what's going to stop me? And what champions are going to help me? What challenges and what champions? Challenges are 5 of them, and I'm not going to teach you all 5, but the big one is what I call a sudden storm. The sudden storm is doing something out of the blue from the side that you were not expecting or anticipating happens. And you have to regroup quickly and not get knocked off your game. And that happens to all of us. We get a pandemic. Was that not a sudden storm?
Oh, yeah, it was.
So, what did you make money during the pandemic? And a lot of people lost money during the pandemic.
I closed the biggest deal of my life during the pandemic.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I bought this house that we're living in right now was during the pandemic, and dramatically went up in value because of the pandemic. Instead of running from, I was running into it, right? So the sudden storm. So my sudden storm was an avalanche in a home that we built in 1986, 87. And it was 10,000 square feet of magnificent architecture in Sundance Ski Resort in Utah. And it was hit by a true, literal avalanche and destroyed. And the worst part of it was the insurance wouldn't pay for the destruction because they found a little clause, which I had to fight them over for many years. Finally recoup some of my money. But in the meantime, lost everything and had to start again from below zero. And it was a sudden storm. And it's kind of a challenge. It wasn't fun. It was horrible. It drove me to my knees, literally to my knees. It drove oh my gosh, I thought I was a lot smarter than this. I didn't realize that a lot of these opportunities were put in my path for me to learn from instead of let it go to my head. And so I had to dig out of that. And bankruptcy ensued from it. It was devastatingly wonderful. It certainly humbled me up big time. And I'm very grateful for that opportunity, frankly, not at the time or for a year since. But a year later, I found out that my wife had been driving to the cabin during a snowstorm, had gotten stuck in the road to go to our cabin by a woman coming down the road because it was snowing. And she was stuck there for an hour plus, while at the same time the avalanche was coming through and destroying our home, leveling it. And therefore, my wife would have been in that cabin had it not been for being stuck in the road. In the meantime, both parties in the problem. My wife is upset. My son's upset. We're trying to get to the cabin. The neighbor is upset because she wants to get back home. Everybody's feeling as if a disaster has happened, when really what they were sitting in the middle of a miracle. And therefore, ultimately and eventually, you see that every disaster turns into a lesson learned or a miracle that the evidence had not come in yet for. So, therefore, in the middle of a disaster, you have to learn how to laugh faster, is the way I say it. Eventually you're going to laugh over it. You're going to go, oh, that 10 million I lost in that cabin. Yeah, that was fun.
It'll take me a while to laugh at that, but okay, I get it.
No, that, of course, it's been 35 years ago. So, yeah, that was a long time ago. But I look back on that as a turning point in my life, a turning point of my eternal life, not just my mortal life. So I'm grateful for it.
Excellent. Who would you say is your favorite leader in history who did great things despite adversity? Who would you say is your favorite?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, or Churchill. Churchill's my favorite. I have got all his autobiographies out up there, and I try to read the autobiographies. I got like 40 or 50 autobiographies of some of my favorites, but Churchill is my number one.
Excellent.
He saved the world, period. We'd be speaking German right now if he hadn't. German or Russian.
Yeah.
So,
well, we could probably use a guy like that right now. I'll tell you that.
Kind of could.
All right, Robert. We talked a lot about some great stuff here. What bulletproof advice would you have for someone listening right now? Maybe they're on the fence about getting into real estate. Maybe they don't even know where to start. What bulletproof advice would you offer?
Well, I'll give it to you. The Four Maps book that talks about mindset stuff. It's all mindset. My book, Multiple Streams of Income, is filled with systems. There's hardly a single comment in here about mindset. This book was written in 2000. This book was written in 15, 20 years later. This one is about mindset. And if you don't have the mindset, it doesn't matter what system I teach you. If you won't follow through, doesn't matter. I'll give you a copy of Multiple Streams of Income. I give you this book, and this one's going to work. So go to author at robertallen.com. Just send me an email. I'll send it to you.
Nice. Excellent.
So that's my gift to whoever your viewers are. I'll know how many of them watched it because it'll right to my personal email. It's my gift to them, or they go to robertallen.com. In that case, I'm involved in a lot of my other very intense mentoring programs. If you go to robertallen.com, lots of free books there too. The Think and Grow Rich is there. That was one that changed my life. The challenge book is there at robertallen.com. But if you want this one on mindset, go to author at robertallen.com. That's my email address. Okay?
It's and I did a lot more coaching previously. We're getting ready to launch some coaching as well, and it's funny because I'm a real big believer in the same thing you just said. Without having the mindset to make that decision to actually get rich, the how doesn't matter right now. The why is what matters most. And but yeah, to your point, I think that many people get hung up on the how. How do I do that? It's initially. That's not the right question. That's not the right question.
Why do that? No. Why do you do that?
Why? The why has to be strong enough. Yeah.
That seems so philosophical, and all these rich people always say that kind of stuff because they've been through the learning curve and they're on the other side now. And they know exactly what they needed to have heard before they started.
That's right. And it's funny because, hey, listen, you and I, we make our living doing this kind of stuff. And so there's always a bit of suspicion, so to speak, I would imagine anyway. But I used to be the guy, the employee. And I have many, many friends that are worth several $100 million. And these are the happiest people. And they never get into the how first. They always talk about the why they want to do something, so it isn't just something that's being used to push a book or to push an idea. It's more like this concept is central to seeing success happen in your life. It really is. My opinion anyway. I'm sure it's your opinion too.
Great to be with you today. I wish your viewers will have something that they learned from today. And I wish you well. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Yes, I hope so. All right, guys, if you want to reach out to Robert, reach him via his website, robertallen.com. Get his material. Send him an email, okay? author@robertallen.com, okay? Take care, guys. Talk to you soon.
You've been listening to the Bulletproof Cash Flow Show. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We know we had fun. Make sure to visit our Apple Podcast page and leave us a 5-star review. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. For real estate coaching, events, and resources, hit up bulletproofcashflow.com. Till next time.
No information in this episode should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Any investment opportunities mentioned on this show are limited to accredited or sophisticated investors. Any investments will only be made with proper disclosure and subscription documentation and subject to all applicable laws. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice.